Alright, so in part 1 we had to scrap our initial plan, so we're just going to start with what we know, and that's how to install these 91 mounts. Now usually you would install these 91 mounts on the bottom of the bass drum. Jay's idea was to put them at the top to reduce how much of the snare bottom head comes through the batter head of the bass drum. So we're going to attempt to install these on top instead of bottom. For these mounts, you're just going to loop that rubber piece through the little leather harness before you screw it on, and that's going to hold it in place. Then once we have all 4 of those installed, you just loop those around the bracket itself, and it should suspend it. Ideally, we want the subkick to be centered, and as you can see here in a moment, when I try and put it in, it is not centered. So we're going to have to find a different way to mount those 91s. But before we get into that, I'm going to prep these subkicks to be mounted. I'm cutting this air tubing to go over the tension rods because our suspension straps are going to be going through the space between the shell and the tension rod. So I'm using these air tubing grommets to protect the straps themselves from rubbing against the metal of the tension rod. Now that we have those subkicks prepped, we're going to tackle the issue of mounting this 91. I'm trying a few different hole spacings trying to get this rubber strap to work, and it's just not working. It doesn't really have the clearance regardless of where I put the strap. So you can see me take it out and put it back on a couple times. Starting to get frustrated here a little bit, but we're going to figure it out. When in doubt, start from scratch. So I'm placing this plate where I want it to go. And we're going to bust out this paracord that I had planned on using later for the subkick itself. We're going to try a couple different knot styles here, see if I can't get this thing tied in place. So I finally get the knot style down that I want to use, and I look at the drum and I realize that the mount is backwards. So we're going to take those off and flip it back around, put it back together. So I finally get it secure, and I look and see how far away the holes I've drilled are from the mount, and the cables for these inputs are not going to be long enough. So I called Jay to give him the bad news, and he was super cool about it. Said that mounting them in the top was kind of a pie in the sky idea. So we're just going to mount them in the bottom like they're supposed to be. I made these little felt pads to put underneath it so it wasn't going to rub the wood. I tied these off for the last time, hit them with the torch, crimped the edges, and these mounts are done. Now we're going to get into actually mounting these subkicks. I've got a few things here. I've got a Kelly Shoe install kit, some carabiners, and the same paracord I used for the mounts before. First, we're going to install all of these leather anchors where they need to go. I went ahead and mapped it out. This was a lot easier with that 91 in the bottom. And we're actually going to use these rubber straps that came with the 91s. I've got a pretty solid idea of how to use those with the subkick. These subkicks are heavy, so the top contact points need to be the strongest points because they're supporting the entire weight of the subkick. So we're going to use these carabiners and some paracord to give us as much strength as possible. Stay tuned for part 3 where we put this subkick inside this drum.